Hi, this is Professor Brennan. This is part 4 of communication and the shaping of our identities. So we just finished talking about impression management theory from Goffman, and now we're going to move into how we manage our identities online. And one of the things that's like a new thing since we've had these phones and we can take pictures with the phones is this big selfie thing. It's never happened before, but that's not what people used to do. People never turned the camera around and took a picture of themselves. That just wasn't something that was done. Now it's pretty common, which is all about managing our identities, right? It's pretty interesting stuff. Let's take a look here. So face-to-face, we're going to look at the difference between online and face-to-face identity management. So in face-to-face, how you act, your appearance, the setting, it's all happening. Synchronous means it's happening at the same time. Remember when I talked about how we define communication is happening at the same time? Like that kind of communication, it's a process, it's ongoing, it's happening at the same time. That's what's happening in face-to-face communication. Now, online, you have control what people see. You get to decide, right? You choose if you have a Facebook account or even your Instagram account or whatever you have, even if you have Pinterest. You choose, you do this on Canvas, what picture you decide to put up there. You decide what you want us to see. You have total control. You really can manage your online experience. It's asynchronous means we're not having the same experience at the same time. We're not communicating at the very same time. Even when we do it this way, when I am communicating with you through a Zoom session or some online, it's still asynchronous because you're watching this after I've already done it. That construction of your identity is how you basically do your reputation management. How do you want to be seen by the world? And in this case, it is the world when it comes to the internet. So before I move into sharing the self, I want you to really think about all the ways that you manage your identity and what that means, your public self and your private self. How are those different? Are they so far away from each other? Is the person that you're presenting to the world so different than the one you are at home? These are just questions to ask yourself. And how does that influence your communication? And if what you're really after is authenticity, which is this idea that who you are, you're that way all the time, which I think is almost impossible because your self at home is not going to be the same self that you bring to college or you bring to your job. But I think also authenticity has to do with being true to yourself. Okay, so just something to think about. So we need each other, right? Communication is the driver of all relationships. How do we share ourselves? How do we get that intimacy? We're going to look at self-disclosure, and when we look at the two other theories that I talked about in the first part of this lecture, we're going to look at self-disclosure as that variable, right? Self-disclosure means disclosing yourself. You decide what you want people to know, right? When you verbally talk, not so much with your nonverbals because a lot of that's unconscious, but verbally, what you share drives how the level of intimacy that you have in your relationship, right? So self-disclosure relationship is defined as the expression of personal information that is of a descriptive, effective, or evaluative nature. So personal information involves content that is not widely known, right? Doesn't mean a secret. It just means, like, for me, I could tell you personal information. You can't see that, but to the right of me is a big painting. I'm a painter. I love painting. Started painting 25 years ago, I guess. And I love to paint. I always wanted to paint, and someone that I was involved with who was an artist gave me my first paints. And I've been painting ever since. I'm not a great artist, but I really enjoy the process of painting. And I paint with oils. I paint with acrylics. And I'm learning how to do mixed media. So there's me. giving personal information that you probably wouldn't know unless I told you that. You might figure by the way I dress that I might be kind of artistic. So I might have some giveaways, but now I just gave you that content and I decided to share it with you. Acts of self-disclosure vary in regard to breadth, which is like how much, quantity of topics disclosed, and the depth, that's the degree of intimacy the information allows. So if I talk about the weather, right? And in fact, I was on Zoom today with students and I didn't talk about any of that. I asked them straight out. I said, so how are you doing? How's it going with being in school the second week? How are you feeling about this? You know, I got honest answers. You know, if I just said, oh my gosh, can you believe this weather right now? It's really awful. The air quality is terrible and the fires are happening. Then we would have been staying at this level. But I started right down here because I want to know what's up. How are you feeling? What's going on? And it's usually the way I talk in general. I don't usually keep conversations up here, but that brings it down to a level of depth. Okay. Self-disclosure, benefits and risks. What do we mean? Again, self-disclosure is revealing personal content that's not widely known to another person. It's cathartic. What does cathartic mean? Cathartic means like a relief, right? Have you ever disclosed something about someone? Like when I had to come out as a gay woman, right? It was a relief to say that, to just get it out there, right? Something maybe I was carrying around with me. It was a relief. It was cathartic. Those are the benefits. It can be cathartic. It can be very risky though too. You can get reciprocity means another person can say, they might not say, I'm gay too. They might say, you know what? My coworker just came out to me. I totally know what I totally understand what you're going through and what a big deal this was for you to tell me. Reciprocity. Or you could say, I have something to tell you, and I'm thinking of something that you don't want people to know. Maybe you say, you know what, I got an F in the class, and then I got an F in college, and then the other person says, you know what, I got an F too. That's reciprocity. So you end up not feeling alone. Self-clarification. Oftentimes when we talk about, when we disclose, we get clearer. You ask yourself if you're one of those people that you talk things out. I'm one of those people. If I talk things through, if I write about it, I get really clear. But oftentimes I want to talk something through to get clear about what it is bothering me. Self-validation. It validates your own feelings. When you say it out loud, when you share it with someone, it validates who you are and what's going on with you. And by that, when you disclose, you are developing intimacy with someone. Intimacy is what's going to bond you and may have you a deeper relationship with that person. So the more you share, the more you self-disclose, the deeper that relationship can be. But it can't be just one person. It has to be reciprocitous, meaning I share, you share, I share, you share. There has to be a give and take with it. If one person's the only one doing all the sharing about what's going on, the relationship is going to suffer. Okay. We also self-disclose to have social influence. Well, we might disclose something to try to influence someone about an issue, right? About how we feel or about how their attitudes towards something. Here are the risks. Obvious risk is rejection. People aren't going to like what you have to say. There's always that chance. You risk making a negative impression. Someone could decide when I come out as a gay woman that they're like, ew, that's really disgusting, or that's against God, or my religion says that's bad, right? You risk that. You could, because of that risk, if it's negative, you have a negative experience, your relationship is going to suffer. You definitely have a loss of influence because now you're not seen in the same light as you were before. And something you say could hurt the other person. I remember when I was really young, there's a whole, like, my whole gay story is I came out when I was young, then I went back in the closet, then I came out later again. And so when I was younger and came out to my parents, it hurt them badly. They were very upset. And yes, was it about them? Sure it was. But I love my parents, and I kind of wish I never told them at that time. I think if they would just have been better off not knowing. I thought telling them would bring them closer to me and actually push them farther away. So your self-disclosure can result in that. Okay, so you are taking a risk. You have to decide, you have to balance it and decide what is it worth for you. Okay, guidelines of self-disclosure, and this is gonna finish up this beautiful 4-part lecture. Okay, what are our guidelines? Here we are. Is the other person important to you? Don't disclose don't be telling people your private stuff if they're not important to you. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. Take care of yourself. You deserve to have some self-protection. You don't owe anybody anything. Decide how important they are. Is it worth it? Is a relationship important to you? Do you want to develop intimacy and develop a deeper relationship with that person? Is the amount that you disclose appropriate? And also ask yourself, is the amount that you're disclosing, is it going to hurt anybody? Right? Is it right to disclose if you're in a relationship that you had an affair? You have to decide what are the rules in your relationship. Or that you're attracted to someone, not even an affair. Is amount of disclosure appropriate? Should you say that you're attracted to that person when your partner already thinks you are? Ask yourself. Is the risk of disclosing reasonable? Okay. Will you risk, if you're going to disclose something there where you could lose someone, where really they don't need to know, it's not important, you're not going to leave them for another person, and maybe it's not worth it. You have to ask yourself. Will it be effective? That's what I'm getting at. Will the disclosing be reciprocated? And are you going to want that reciprocation? Let's just say, you know what? I have something to admit to you. I'm really attracted to the man I work with. And what if then your partner says to you, you know what? I'm really attracted to the girl that I work with. I mean, do you really want to know that? So just think about that. Or let's say you share something different. Let's say that you share with a really good friend that you have been molested as a kid. You have to decide, is that person important to you? And will it be reciprocated? Like maybe you're telling them because you think they were, right? Or you're going to share that you had an eating disorder or that you had a drug addiction. And you're sharing it because you think that they were, and you're trying to really make a connection with them. Are you morally obligated to disclose? This is like, are you supposed to? Yeah, if you've killed someone, if you killed their kid, yeah, then that's a whole other thing. I'm being a little extreme. But you have to ask yourself, do my own moral convictions say that I have to tell them? Let's go back to that. We're going to talk about that later on the semester, about deception, right? When is honesty or lack of honesty appropriate, right? You have to decide that. Those goes with your own values and morals. I have a code with my partner, which is if you have an affair with someone, which is unlikely to happen. Let's just say you have an affair with someone and it's a one-night thing and you're never going to see that person again. You're not going to leave me for that person. Then I don't want to know. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to doubt her. I rather live in the belief that she loves me completely. That's me. She knows that. As in communication with your partner, you want to decide that. Okay. This, friends and neighbors, I'm trying to get out of that light right there, but we are finished. Thank you for hanging in with me. It was great being with you this evening. I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Beautiful day.